The left continues to perpetuate the lie that the right wants to ban books, and thus are Nazis and fascists. But is there a chance, maybe, that they just want to keep pornographic content out of the hands of children? Well, Joy Reid and msnbc really hit it out of the park with this one. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist, and I host a radio show, too, called Speechless on Cities 92.9 and other radio stations. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. To make sure you don't miss a minute of any of my content, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that button. It's right down there. Please, I'd appreciate it. Comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And I want to keep making my content better, guys, so if you'd consider maybe checking out the Venmo or the Cash App that's in the description of this video, or sending a super chat, becoming a member, I'd appreciate that as well. But Moms for Liberty co-founder triggered Joy Reid on her own show and gets her to argue in favor of rape and pedophilia books in schools. This is a real story. I'm not even kidding. It's hard to take Joy Reid seriously at all in this video. And I know I've been coming after Joy Reid a lot. I believe I had a video last week in which I went after her about the Iowa caucus. But when you are so simply daft and stupid, it would make sense that you deserve to be humiliated in the public sphere when you yourself show yourself in the public sphere being so daft, stupid, and pea-brained. So, the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tiffany Justice, blasted Reid on MSNBC while the host tried to gaslight her about the book, quote, "All Boys Aren't Blue." And so we're going to take a look and a listen at this clip here today and talk about, and I'll pause a little bit here in between and around it, so we could talk a little bit more about what Joy Reid was really trying to do in this instance, and the consistent narrative that's pushed by the left in a lot of instances such as this. So everybody, let's take a look and a listen right here.
That you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read. What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so
sure.
I'm going to answer
Please
for you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? Just
in what context? In what context? And at the beginning of this, the amazing thing is Joy Reid asks, what expertise do you have to try to not allow this award-winning book? This award-winning book. Okay, here's the thing. Anything can be award-winning. Technically, you could say almost anything's award-winning. You want to know how you want to know how simple it is? Here, Kevin. Here's this award for greatest person on YouTube. Man, I just gave myself that award. I'm an award winner, everybody. I'm an award winner. No, I've won real awards too. I wouldn't do that, nor would I claim I'm the best person on YouTube. I need better equipment. Let's start there. But I digress. Being an award winner isn't necessarily special. Now, if it's a New York Times #1 bestseller, that's a different story. So Joy, you're coming at this, pay attention to their language because it's super important. Pick apart those little things. And that's the first thing. Then the expertise thing. Look, she's not coming on this show claiming to be an expert. And there's a lot more to watch with this, but that's just the start. Let's keep listening.
That's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No. We're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me a question.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name
remembered
of the author
very specific
doesn't. Joy.
Here's my question.
We're talking about.
Here's my question.
This is okay. So Joy Reid gets backed into a corner. So here's what's happening, and who can also take her seriously with that hair? Like, that's the other thing. I've mentioned it in the last video, too. How is this not cultural appropriation, everybody? Joy Reid right there has blonde hair, and I guarantee you it's not hers. Now, if any white person were to have cornrows, they would be a cultural appropriator. They're a cultural appropriator. But Joy Reid right here isn't a cultural appropriator. BS. But I digress. The point being about this part is Joy Reid gets backed into a corner. You have the Moms for Liberty person come out and say, okay, let's talk about what's in the book. Here's what it is. Here's literally things that are listed in the book. And then Joy is like, oh, wow, I'm really going to get her. What's the name of the character? What's the name of the character? Okay, why? She was able to list things that are in the book. To try to be trivial, it's childish. It's genuinely childish to be like, oh, well, you can name other things, but can you name the character? Huh? Can you name the character? That's not going to discredit the rest of the points that this mom has already rightfully made of things that do happen in the book. And so let's see where Joy takes this, because she's got to notice at some point that that doesn't discredit the rest of the points already being made, even if this mom doesn't know the name of the first character. Look, if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, which I have, I know the gist of what's going on, but I don't always remember everybody's name. It's not always easy to follow. That's just a different example, but just think about it. The name isn't the most important thing. The theme and the story is.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay, great. So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book.
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
This book is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right, or a Moms for Liberty activist's right, to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
So again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask it one more time.
So each parent, and I'm going to let her keep going because this will be fascinating to me. But each parent has the right to decide what it is their child can read. Okay. So where's the Bible? Why is that not in there? Huh? Where's the Bible, Joy? Look, this is grandstanding in its purest form, and hypocrisy as well. Joy Reid doesn't care about parents' rights. Not even one bit. What about let's take the flip side. Why can't there be material in there that discusses why it's a problem to be gay? Why it's sinful? Why it's wrong? Guarantee you Joy wouldn't be for that. What about material that would discuss the idea of slavery being okay, or maybe that the Holocaust didn't happen? And these aren't things that I agree with, but in terms of material, the only reason Joy is taking the stance that she is because it benefits her. When you actually try to blow, or when you blow even the slightest amount of wind into the house of cards that she's currently building, it simply crumbles. Why? Because it's being picky on what you think is okay simply based on your personal worldview. Now, the opposite side will always win this argument. Why? Why? Because if you remain consistent and say, we need to set a standard of what is okay and what is not okay for children to read, then you can't pick and choose. And maybe the Bible will be allowed in that standard, maybe it won't. But at the end of the day, too, you also can have parents that at home allow their child to read whatever they want or watch whatever they want, for better or for worse. And that can all happen at home. Why does it have to happen in a public school? But let's keep watching this.
Right. What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story, why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story. What I'm saying, Joy,
you're now making assumptions
no,
about it.
Joy, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on the library
Now you're literally
shelf.
creating a story behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt. Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you. So it's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It would allow any parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue, that they can make that choice, because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African American history, then we
want children to read books.
Why not?
Oh, now it simply becomes a race issue. That's the thing. That's what Joy will always do. She did it. She did it with the Iowa caucus, too. You can go watch that video. I'll link it right to this. But that's what Joy will do. She's losing the battle on the rape and pedophilia argument. So she's like, well, let's make this a race thing. When they were not talking about race at all, they weren't trying to ban any kind of book that had to do with race or anything like that. No. And they weren't even trying to ban books, period. They were trying to say, hey, this should not be allowed in public school because this is my taxpayer money going to this, as well as that children should not be exposed to such graphic and disgusting, vile content at such a young age, especially. And so when we look at what Joy Reid is doing is, let's make it about race, because then I can really get people back on my side. That's what I'll do, is I'll get people back on my side by just calling this woman a racist. Because when you devolve pretty much every argument down to somebody's identity, that's how it will always come back to. This mom was not by any means talking about race, and from what I understand, the entire purpose of her being on the show had nothing to do with any really race-related content. However, that's what Joy will do, and that's where she'll go, because she's essentially playing the victim card. She's like, oh, well, I'm going to get away from the rape and incest and pedophilia, and so I will pull it into what I can claim social capital on, the fact that I'm black. That's what she's doing. She's playing into the racial divisions, which is absolutely disgusting. And honestly, if you are a person if you're black, I'd be outraged. I mean, I am mad. I think it's stupid, but that's simply just because I think that I get mad by stupid people. But if you're black, you should be mad because that makes you look bad. That's the representation of black people in black media. Is that you're just going to devolve everything into playing the race card. What else is this video saying?
Just opt out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot.
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library like they used to do.
See, and this is exactly what happens. This is exactly what happens in school board meetings, is you will have parents that will go to school board meetings and say, I have a problem that my child had access to this incredibly graphic, pornographic book in their school. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it for you so you can understand what is actually being allowed in these classrooms and in these school libraries. And then as soon as they start to read it and they get to a point that's obscene, objectively obscene, they get cut off, told they can't speak anymore, that they're being inappropriate. And this is what Joy Reid is doing right here. She's cutting her off when when the Moms for Liberty parent is trying to actually get into the roots of what is discussed in this book. And why is she being cut off? Because it's obscene, it's graphic, and it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate for a school board meeting room. It's inappropriate for classrooms. It's inappropriate for MSDNC. But somehow it's okay to be seen in front of our children. And if you oppose it, you're a Nazi and you want to burn books. No, not at all. But let's see what else Joyless Reid decides to say.
One moment.
Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
The books that Moms for Liberty. With pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
There's America used to understand that there's something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again.
On movies.
Again. Ruby Bridges Goes to School is on the list of books that Moms for Liberty has attempted to have removed.
Absolutely not.
It absolutely is. Let me ask about the people who are making the decision for other parents, because you have not answered yet why a liberal parent or an African-American parent
can't say parents who are Democrats who are members of our organization.
But you're still trying to make decisions for all the kids. Here are some of the parents that are filing, or some of your advocates. Mm-hmm. Bridget Ziegler, the Moms for Liberty co-founder, the wife of the recently ousted Florida Republican Party chairman, Christian Ziegler, who allegedly was involved in threesomes, same-sex threesomes. Mrs. Ziegler was removed from the school board at which she was a leader. You've had
she wasn't removed from the school board.
Okay, now here's what's happening in this. This is blatant ad hominem attack. So she lost on the front of, hey, these books are pornographic. She lost on that one, so she moves to race. And then she's basically told, you're lying. And so she loses on the race front as well. And so now she goes into, well, let's just make personal attacks to people on Moms for Liberty. Every single counter argument that Joy Reid tries to make in this does not actually address the original argument. It circles around it and then devolves into what is called a logical fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. Her initial counter-argument decided to ignore the initial premise and go to race, which was a red herring. And now she goes to ad hominem attacks. Ad hominem attacks, meaning personal attacks on people that are not even in the room with her right now. And the reason why this is problematic is because you're trying to make these arguments. You're trying to make an argument that Moms for Liberty is bad. That's ultimately what Joy Reid is trying to assert. Moms for Liberty is bad. Banning these books is bad, etc. And so she fails when what she's trying to do is say, well, these books should be allowed because the people that are advocating for them not to be allowed are bad in and of themselves. And that's what she's trying to say. But that's not the case. Somebody who is a poor character can make a good argument. And so it simply makes no sense. Let's keep listening.
Have Lauren DePaula. She was making book ban requests in Alachua County, but then records show that she and her husband didn't live there. They'd sold their home in that county. Carrie Blair in Tennessee, who was arrested for property theft charges after allegedly stealing from Target, skip scanning in Target. Why should those three people get to make decisions about what other children should be able to read?
Okay, once again. This makes no sense. Why should they? Why shouldn't they? You haven't presented an argument as to why their argument is not valid, as to why the obscene content should be allowed. A woman allegedly, again, all these allegations are not proven, first off, nor can they be fact-checked in the moment by the other person, but they also needn't be. They needn't be because they have nothing to do with the premise of the question. So what if somebody stole from Target? Does that mean that their opinion on whether obscene content should be seen by children is less valid? No.
Parents' children should be able to read.
Do you know that I served as a school board member from 2016 to 2020?
Are you going to answer my question?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Because we don't have an endless time.
Joy, I'm going to answer your question, but I need you to understand that when I was an elected representative, I would sit on that dais. And how dare I, sitting there as an elected representative, judge a parent when they would come to the podium to speak and advocate for their child? Because as we started this conversation, we'll end it. Every parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. And I would not stand in judgment,
let us end on a point of agreement.
About a parent's education level, their sexual orientation, their race, their religion. That is not what America is about.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask my question, Mrs. Justice.
Thank you.
If a parent believes that their child should be able to read Ruby Bridges,
We believe that that children should be able to read.
Then how can Moms for Liberty insist that the school board take that book away and then say that a parent who wants the child to be able to read it must purchase it? That's essentially putting a tax on parents who want their children to read the book. Your kids get to have books for free that you agree with, but children who want to read, or parents who want their children to read books you don't like, have to purchase it. That doesn't sound fair.
Did you know that in the city that we're sitting in, only a quarter of children are reading on grade level?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And so while we're having this conversation about books in libraries, two things should be happening.
That's a great point.
We should be talking about literacy rates and the fact that America's kids are not learning how to read, and we should be having vibrant conversations about what books should be in libraries.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then the conversation transitions into, well, I think it goes to commercial break at some point soon after that. But the point of all of this is Joy Reid made no single argument. She didn't. To recap, one more time, the conversation began with, I'm for Moms for Liberty. Not me personally, but you know what I'm saying. This woman is for Moms for Liberty, and she believes that some books should be banned based on graphic content. Joy disagreed and said, where is your expertise? Where is your expertise? Questioning authority, not questioning the argument. Then she proceeds, when that didn't work, she proceeds to question identity. Well, you're just a racist because you don't want this Ruby Bridges book, which was then quickly refuted and said that's not what we're talking about in any of this. Oh, well then, so that didn't work. Well, then there's other people that are part of Moms for Liberty, and they allegedly have poor character. So why should we listen to them? Once again, an attempt to attack authority through an ad hominem base. Failed. But then she concludes. She concludes with, well, you're actually putting a tax on these children. Okay, first off, the book was already bought using taxpayer funding. It wasn't free, Joy. That's how public schools work. You realize that, right? No? Or are you still so out of touch and in your ivory tower that you don't realize that? But then she tries to act like I'm going to be the altruistic one and say, the people that do want their children to read these books, now they have to go out and buy it. Oh, the horror. The $15 for the gay anal rape sex incest book for my 12-year-old to read. I have to go buy it now instead of it being allowed in the public school. This is why I say that she's daft, stupid, and pea-brained. Because the only thing that came close to a legitimate argument was that we're not going to waste taxpayer money on these books, so now people actually have to go buy them on their own. That was the closest thing to an argument. Didn't argue any of the content issues. Didn't argue anything else. But that was the closest thing to a valid argument Joy Reid made on this. She could have been talking to a brick wall in which the question was posed, why shouldn't kids be allowed to have porn in schools? And she still would have lost. She still would have lost. If you had a brick wall in front of her and she just talked to herself, she would have lost. Because she's that stupid. Because she's that dumb. And I'm sorry, I know that's an ad hominem attack to an extent on her, but I laid out exactly why. She has not shown in any way, shape, or form that she can make a coherent argument on something that there actually are coherent arguments for. But because of this, you'll still have lefties on the internet, on Twitter and stuff, that will say, Joy Reid held herself so great against that racist Nazi homophobe. That's what'll happen. That's what'll happen. Somehow she still gets a mic, despite being a cultural appropriator through her blonde hair. Somehow she'll still get a show, despite not being able to make a single commendable argument against that on her own show. And somehow people will keep watching her. I'm actually convinced that the only reason a lot of people keep watching her is for moments like that where she gets absolutely destroyed by this Moms for Liberty parent. So, I don't know. I don't know. Tiffany Justice, good for her. That's the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. If you're interested in trying to get involved, go look up Moms for Liberty today. They do amazing work in making sure that children or only have access to age-appropriate content in the schools. Again, if you want your child to be exposed to pornography, you can absolutely do that. I think you should probably have DCFS called on you and be arrested, but as of right now, that's not 100% illegal. But maybe I'm dumb. Maybe Joy Reid said something good and I didn't even notice it. So let me know in the comments section if that's the case. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you liked this video and like the video. Comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And until next time, God bless you, God bless America, and thank you so much for tuning in to Speechless.